All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Denver Broncos in today's video. I saw Philip Lindsay's quote about Bo Nix and how Jarrett Stidham's doing better, and I see now that it's clickbait because I saw that a few days ago and I was like, hold on, what? People were making it seem like Jarrett Stidham. I feel like people were making Philip Lindsay's quote to be like Jarrett Stidham should be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. I'm kind of in awe that all like the negative press Bo Nix got from the first preseason game. We're in a really weird era of the National Football League. We're in a really weird social media era for sports in general. We've been doing this for a few years now. I've been covering the NFL on this channel, Will Upton, for a few years now. You can never win. I mean, you just genuinely can never win. Bo Nix could come out here, he could blow it up and do so well. He could go 14 of 15 for 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the media world is going to sit here and be like, it's preseason. What am I supposed to do with that? And then on the contrary, you could go 6 for 11 like he just did. What was it, like 31 yards? It doesn't even matter. And then you can have the media come out here and be like, sophomore slump's real, man. Sophomore slump's real. I'm not saying he's a bust. He had a good rookie season. What if he peaked too early? There's such a thing as peaking too early. It's just crazy. You can never win with the media in preseason, and to be quite honest with you, fans as well. Now, in my time making Denver Broncos videos, you guys are very reasonable, so I don't think any of you guys are actually freaking out about this. Bo Nix, long term, I have no concerns here. And people think unless you win the Super Bowl, so all 31 teams in the NFL, I noticed this with like Tua a lot, if you don't win the Super Bowl, your season was a bust. Like, you just had a straight up bad season if you did not win the Super Bowl. So the whole media thing is just crazy, because I look at this Broncos team and I'm so unbelievably impressed. And 1 year ago, we would sit here on the microphone in preseason and we would talk about how good and intriguing this team is going to be, and they just blew everybody away. This team last season was so good, and when you look at whether it's R.J. Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, Pat Bryant, Trent Sherfield, Evan Ingram, Dre Greenlaw, Hufanga, all of these players, Savion Jones, this team is so good. Now, I would sit here and be like, because here's the thing, actually, let's just get into it. So one thing last season, actually before we do, folks, if you don't mind hitting that like button, it goes a very, very long way. I appreciate you guys so much. Now let's get into it. All right, the offensive line. So according to ESPN, the Denver Broncos offensive line ranked number 1 in both pass blocking and run blocking in 2024. Now, Philly is kind of like widely viewed as the best offensive line in the National Football League. And that's kind of my comparison is, we're talking defense, we're talking offensive lines. Denver's like right up there in the best of the business last year with the Philadelphia Eagles in all of these different categories. It reminds me of Philly from a few years ago. I still think, technically anybody could win it on any given season. If Bo Nix turns into, this superstar this upcoming season, then obviously, anything can happen. But my point just is, Denver's going to be a really good team next season, or this season in a couple of weeks. And whether, I read something and their record prediction is 10-7, 11-6, 12-5, that's kind of where it's usually around. Or even if you're anticipating some regression, I don't think people really have Denver below 500. I think, like, if you're thinking Bo Nix is going to, see a sophomore slump, I still think people are predicting 9-8 or 10-7. So I think 10 or 11 wins for Denver, because you just never know. It's a long NFL season. Players get hurt. Crazy stuff happens. So I feel like record predictions is a little bit ridiculous, or it's usually ages poorly. But this offensive line is so good. And when we look at the defensive line is so good, right? You got Zach Allen, DJ Jones, JFM, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito. Here's what people don't really know, because, and I always made this joke last year, because the Broncos defense in all these games would do something crazy. Like, the Broncos defense was phenomenal last year. It was among the best in numerous categories. Only the Eagles allowed fewer yards per play and posted a lower EPA per play. The Broncos, they finished second in pressure rate at pretty much 40%. It was an insane season. And the whole joke was this no-name defense, right? People didn't really know who, Nick Bonito is. People didn't really know who a lot of these guys were. Obviously, Pat Surtain ends up winning Defensive Player of the Year, and now they even bring in Jahdae Barron, and it's just honestly insane how good this defense is on paper and was good last year. So my point is, like, they have a phenomenal offensive line. They have a phenomenal defensive line. So Bo Nix can have a sophomore slump, or it's like kind of like the same thing with CJ Stroud last year, where it's like a sophomore slump for Bo Nix. Are we talking like 28 touchdowns thrown, a couple runs, but like 28 touchdowns thrown and like 13 interceptions? The interceptions don't really even worry me in general. But this team is the no-name defense, and now you've got some names. You got Dre Greenlaw, you got Hufanga, you got Jahdae Barron. Now people know who Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper are. Those two dudes, Cooper and Bonito, they had 24 sacks last season combined. But it was just so funny seeing the media world being like, I was watching these games, I was watching the Broncos, and, somebody would make a play, and I would have to Google who this guy is. The Broncos defense, they certainly don't care about that. You got Jonah Ellis. I mean, they're seriously such a deep team. They are such a deep team. So nobody's really concerned or questioning defense, right? That's kind of my point here. So when we look at offense, there's a lot of moves I really liked. Like, first off, J.K. Dobbins. People are like viewing, and then Sean Payton's depth chart, which why would anybody ever trust that in general? People viewed the like J.K. Dobbins move as negative because people are so obsessed with fantasy football, and they're like, oh no, maybe I'm not going to take R.J. Harvey in the 3rd or 4th round of my fantasy football dynasty league because they picked up J.K. Dobbins, so that must mean that Sean Payton doesn't believe R.J. Harvey is good enough to be RB1 this upcoming season. It's like, all right, hold the phone here. R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, no Broncos fan is upset with that running back duo. You still got Estime. They got a really good running back room. UCF, we could go on and on with statistics. He had pretty much 3,000 rushing yards since 2023. That was like the 4th most in college football. The guy's a stud. Been watching this channel since spring. Evan Ingram was one of my favorite pickups for this squad because, we're wondering, is Denver going to take a tight end in the 1st round? Are the top tight ends going to be available when Denver picks in the 1st round? And they go out there and they pick up Evan Ingram right away. Among the Jags, he played for 3 seasons with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He ranked 4th at tight end with yards after the catch at almost 1,200. He played only 9 games last season due to a torn labrum, so if he returns fully healthy for this season, plays like over 14, 15 games, huge weapon for this offense. Marvin Mims really got it going at the end of last season. I would love to crown the Denver Broncos as like the dark horse of the NFL, but I guess maybe it's not that dark horse because their defense is like that good. But anyways, just kind of a Friday night rant. I got a comment from somebody yesterday saying, can we get a Broncos video? And I was like, oh my God, I haven't done a Broncos video in way too long. So folks, that's it for me. We'll cover this after your game, against Arizona tomorrow night. So Broncos video in a few days, but I hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. Give me a loose win-loss projection for Denver, and we'll see you soon. Peace.